I'm a pretty big fan of combat sports, whether that be MMA or boxing or anything in between. Something that fascinates me about combat sports is the mind of the fighter, and the kind of person that starts fighting and why they start fighting. To better understand this, I decided to get a perspective of someone who's an actual professional fighter. Bruce Carrington. Bruce Carrington is a 3-0 professional boxer who recently turned pro in October, fighting on the undercard for Tyson Fury vs. Deontay Wilder 3. He's from Brownsville, New York, which is a city that has given the world many world-class boxers, with a few notable examples being Mike Tyson, Zab Judah, Shannon Briggs, Curtis Stevens, and many, many others. Even though Carrington is only a few years older than me, at only 25 years of age, his resume makes it seem as though he's someone much older, achieving many things that people his age only dream of achieving. Such as participating in the U.S. Olympic team trials in 2016, fighting at the 2017 National Golden Gloves tournament in which he came in 3rd place, fighting at the 2018 Eastern Elite Qualifier in which he came in 2nd place, and just recently in 2020, he came in 1st place for the Olympic trials for boxing.
I started boxing because I used to get in a lot of fights in school when I was younger. I remember my dad, even when I was in the house, I was never like really a problematic kid. And my dad, he kind of saw that. He never really knew that I had like I wouldn't say an aggressive side, but, that I was just, brave enough to defend myself while I was home. I was a good kid. But there would be kids around 2 years older than me, and I was about like 7 years old. At that age, age difference matters. Makes a big difference. Those kids would try to pick on me, try to bully me, but I would defend myself. I was, good at defending myself. I would beat up the bullies that was bullying me. So my dad was like, okay, that was kind of surprising. So he brought me to the gym, and it was like I just instantly just got attached to it. Like immediately, I got so attached to learning and like the sweet science and learning like the ins and outs of just my cardio and conditioning. And I remember the first time I sparred, I beat the kid up so bad and he never came back to the gym. Like at that point, that's when I was like, yeah, nah, I'm definitely gonna, boxing. But the reason why I box today, honestly, is just the love that I have for the game. Like I really, really want to be the greatest. I want to be the best of the best. Like I really believe in myself, and I am gonna take it always to the top, or at least as far as I can take it. And hopefully it'll be to the top.
Was there ever a boxer that you aspired to be like that made you want to start boxing?
2 guys. My first half of my first few years of boxing, definitely Mike Tyson. When I first started boxing, like I used to fight guys that was much taller than me. And then when I used to fight them, I used to have to fight like Tyson. So it was like, I adopted his style. But once I started to get older, my body type was becoming to get a little different to where I couldn't fight like that anymore. And then I noticed I had some reflexes and whatnot. And I started to gravitate towards Floyd Mayweather. So Floyd Mayweather is definitely one of the main guys throughout the majority of my career that I pattern my style from.
What challenges of being a boxer have you faced?
Oh, there's so many sacrifices, man. When I tell you, just being away from family, like right now I'm in Vegas training at a time, my family's back in New York, being away from family, sacrificing, hanging out with your friends, of course. To be honest, I almost quit boxing back in 2018. I remember I had a moment when I was in my amateur career where I thought I plateaued. Like I didn't have the confidence anymore. I really second guessing on stepping back in the ring anymore. I was just like, man, like, is this for me anymore? Like, do I have it or is it just not in me? But it was more so of a mental thing because, I had the skill, but I just didn't really believe in myself. But that's just kind of the mental hurdles you have to get over in order to be, the great. in order to be great and, amongst the elite. The night of the fight is definitely, I'm like real, I'm really strict on what like things that has to happen when, the night of the fight. Like I have to make sure I sleep well at a certain time. And, if people are in my room, I get them out like, 2 hours before it's time for me to go to bed. And, I listen to a lot of music and I like zone out. I just cut off lights and I listen to like a lot of like soothing music. And before I go to bed, maybe even watch some Floyd Mayweather, to be honest, to really just keep that picture of my mind of how he fights and using some of his moves into the fight. A little bit of those things, to be honest, are like really routine for me going into the fight night. The gym is like my home, so I'm always in the gym. I'm back in the gym right after I fight, so it's not really much of a rest, I would say. I mean, I rest a little bit, I pig out here and there, but this is more so of I just like to keep my body conditioned, keep my body in shape, because you never know when you're gonna get the call, so when you're gonna fight again soon, and you never want to be too out of shape to where you gotta get back in shape and start your whole process over of trying to get in shape. Like it's a lot to do that. I'd rather just stay in shape all year round. The impact that boxing has had on my life, like being able to travel the world. Like that was kind of the best things for me, to be honest, because I grew up, coming out of Brownsville. It was like I always felt like, like I came from the trenches. It's like there's nothing worse than Brownsville. There's nothing worse than the people that come out of Brownsville, and nobody can go through what I go through. Nobody understands what I go through. But when I go to countries like Nicaragua and Peru, or just poverty-stricken countries or anything like that, like I grow to realize that my problems are other people's blessings. Like they wish that they had my problems, and they would even see my problems are as issues, because they don't even have like clean water out there. And every single time like I think about it, I'll be like, wow, like you have to remain grateful and really think about the blessings that God has given you by putting you at in a certain place in your life. And I feel like by me traveling the world, it's made me more of a well-rounded person.
Fighting of all kinds is a risky job, to say the least. You're completely putting your life on the line most times a year for people to watch you fight another person. And sometimes the outcome isn't what you expected, or the pay isn't that good. But that really says a lot about the type of people that fight. Even if you sustain a lot of bad injuries, even if you are losing the fight, you keep going and give it your all, no matter what the circumstances may be.
If you were to give advice to someone that was an upcoming boxer, what would your main advice be for that?
My main advice would be make sure you stay consistent. Like always stay consistent. Things might, you might have some bumps in the road, but as long as you stay consistent and really love what you're doing and try to be the best at what you're doing, you're gonna make it to the top. In no time, you're gonna be amongst the elite. And, then that's the point where you shine.